Hello everyone, and in this lesson we're going to take a look at how to make a simple procedural hedge. So at the end of it we should have a hedge that we can sort of distribute over a given area, and it should sort of automatically generate random plants. Okay, so to get started we're going to start off with a simple line. So I'm just going to do like Control C Control V, and I have this one line, and what I want to do is I want to distort this. Okay, so I have about 4 points on this. Okay, so I don't want like too many because I don't want the line to look too distorted. Okay, so take a point jitter, and we don't want anything in the Z axis, so make that 0, and then lower the scale. Yeah, and now I want to smoothen it out, so take a resample and come into treat polygons as and change this to subdivision curves, and there you go. So you have like a nice little curved line over there. Now the next step is take another line. This will be my branch. Okay, I'll make it a little small. I'll give it some points and take a bend, and let's bend this. So I'm going to take this and press B. Okay, for some reason it's going like upside down. Hold on, let's make it smaller still. Let's make it about 0.35. Yeah, for some reason it's not going up. Okay, so what you want to do is come to capture direction, make it 1 and make this 0. And let's keep the up vector to -1 in the Z axis. And I can just bend this a little bit. Okay, so about this much is fine. So now we're going to take a copy to points. And let's just copy this. Now, by default, it will just distribute like this, which is not, really what we want. So what you want to do is take an orientation along curve in the middle, and this will sort of give the central line like normals. So they will sort of like flow along this. Let me just turn this off temporarily. So now what you want to do is you want to give it, you want it to spin along this thing. So what you can do is come into additional rotation, turn on roll, and if we take this and start to spin it, see, you can sort of spin this around. Okay, now the trick to this is there's an L Systems book called The Algorithmic Beauty of Plants. Now you don't need to read that book. I mean, if you want to, it's fine. But there's like a magic number in there, which is 137.5. So that is the number of degrees by which a branch rotates. Or even if you're doing like phyllotaxis, which is the distribution of those sunflower seeds, that's also like the degree is 137.5. So if you remember that, it will usually give you a good distribution. So what I'm going to do is take the partial twist, make it 137.5, and then change the twist to per edge, and there you go. You'll get this. And let's turn this on. See, so now you have like branches that spin like this. Okay, now what I also want to do is I want like the lower ones to bend more, and then the upper ones to sort of like bend upwards, or sort of like start to flow upwards. So what we can do is come to apply pitch, and then take the pitch value and see. So this will allow you to do this, and we can take the incremental pitch, which will sort of go by the length of the curve, and just so we can kind of like adjust it. See, so this gives you a much more interesting result. Okay, so this is like, as far as we look at this, we get a pretty decent looking, hold on, turn that off. There you go. See, so you have like a pretty decent looking plant. But we need to do a few more things with this, which is firstly, I also wanted to scale down. So in the resample, turn on curve view, and then put in a float value. So take attributed just float, and we'll call this p scale, and we will set this to always and float, and do remap attribute, and the attribute you want to remap is curve view, and there you go. Okay, so flip this. So we have like the lower branches are big and the upper branches are small. Now along with this, I would also like I don't want the branches to go from like all the way from the bottom to all the way on the top. Like that doesn't look very good. So take a carve in here and see. So this will allow me to sort of just control this. Let's take a carve like before that. Okay. And do like a first and second, so we can then just control like, you know, how much we want. And we can put in another resample after the carve. So that will give me like a little more control, and turn on curve view for this. So this will give me, you know, like if I take this resample, so now I'm not limited to the number of points that are there on the main curve. I can sort of control it a little bit more from here. And I can just take the P scale and maybe, you know, like adjust this a bit. Yeah. So now if we merge these together, you'll see that we have, you know, yeah, so I have this, and I'll bring it in from here. See, so we have, you know, so this carve allows me to then control like, you know, how high or low this is going to be. All right, so now that this is done, let's add some leaves. So for the leaves, what I'm going to do, I'll just copy it from here. You get, if you have the lab tools installed and you type in leaf, you'll get something called labs tree simple leaf. Okay, so which is this thing. So I'm going to do Control C, Control V, and just bring it in over here. And I can just do a copy to points. But what we want is, I want to just copy to the final, like the top point over there. So take a group by range over here, and let's call it end. We'll go points and select, like come to end, make it 1 and do invert range. So there you go. And these will get, you know, propagated down here. So take a copy to points, and then this will be end. Yeah. And plug this in. So there you go. Okay. Now we want to do a few things here. So first of all, I would like the P scale from like this value to go down to the leaves as well. So what you want to do is come to copy to points, and by default it doesn't pick up the P scale, okay, which is generally a good thing. But in our case, we want it. So what you want to do is just take this and delete it. So this will pick up the P scale. Okay. The next thing is, we again want to do an orientation along curve over here. So this will sort of, you know, do a distribution like that, which won't look very good. But what we can do is just come into orientation along curve, change the target up vector to custom, and make it 1 in the y-axis. So there you go. So what this does is, no matter what, they'll always sort of, you know, face like this. And you can also then come in here and, you know, you want to like rotate them a little bit, or, you know, give them a little bit of a pitch. See, so you can do, you know, things like that. So it gives you a little more control. Okay, and then as far as coloring is concerned, I can just like, since like this one has a curve view, so that's fine. This one I also want to give it a resample, but you don't need to give it any points. You know, so turn that off, just turn on curve view. And I can just take a color node and do ramp from attribute and curve view. There you go. Okay. And this will be, let's try like a, and Control C, Control V, bring that in over here. Yeah. Except this will be slightly darker. Okay. So this is fine. Okay. And then we can lastly just give it a sweep. So let's just do a merge here. Let's merge these two guys. Okay, I'll get rid of this. And also I want to take an attribute delete and just get rid of the P scale if it exists anywhere, because that can cause issues. Yeah. So just take a sweep and we can give it some thickness. So round tube and make it tiny. Yeah, let's just give this, we can do a grid. Yeah, and make it 0.06, and then just give it like a little bit of scaling along curve. Yeah, there you go. See, so this looks decent. Okay, as a final thing, let's also, you know, if you want to put a flower on top or something, you can do that. Right now I don't want to model a flower. So I'm just going to put in like a sphere on top. So let's just take this. I have a sphere. And I'm going to again do like, let's take a group by range. So do Control C, Control V. And let's plug this in over here. Let's call this top. And we'll do copy to points and I'll plug this in over here, and this will be top. There you go. So just take this, and there you go. So you have like a fairly simple plant. Okay, now the question is, we want to distribute this over a grid. So you have a bunch of ways to do this, but there is a new option in Houdini 20 which allows you to control a carve using attributes. So let's use that to make things a little more interesting. Okay, so what we want is, we want to distribute, but we also want each plant to have a slightly separate height. Okay, so we're going to see how to do that. Okay, so take a grid, or let's just pick up this guy over here. Okay, so we'll pick up these two. So what you get is, you get a grid, and we did a scatter, and I did like a scatter and align. I set it to density. Okay, so you can just, or you can set it to like number of points, which is also fine. By default, the coverage is 0.5. Don't do that. Make the coverage at 1, so it sort of distributes properly. And I'll give it around 80 points for now. Okay, now yeah, let me just get rid of these values. Now, the one thing that happens in here is that it generates a p-scale value. Okay, and we don't want the p-scale value. So just take an attribute delete, and we can just get rid of the p-scale. The advantage of using a scatter line is that you have like options for random rotation. So if you randomize the other values, you don't need to randomly rotate, like you won't make out the difference. But if you don't, then this is pretty useful. Okay, so what we can do is, like, if I just do a copy to points here, then you will see that this thing, see it does this, and then if I come into scatter line and I just make this 360, see, there you go. So we can sort of distribute it this way. Now, the first thing I want to do is, I want to randomize the jitter value. Okay, so on a per copy basis, the seed should change. So we're going to need a for each for that. Okay, so take a for each and do a for each point. And we'll generate like a random value over here that can be fed into this for randomization. So let's do a float. So we'll do attribute just float, and let's call this seed. And the attribute name is seed, and this will just be like random. Okay, and we'll do set always. Okay, so let's take this, we'll call it something short, so I'll call it for each d, and plug this in here. This goes in there, and that comes out here. Okay, so this is fine. Let's remove the rotation so you'll be able to see what's happening. And what you need to do is just come into the point jitter, and in order to pull this value in here, we need a point function. So, I mean, you can watch my for each and copy stamp videos. This is sort of explained in there. Or if you're just someone who's been using Houdini since, like, I don't know, version 18 or something, you'll know how to do this. So do a point, and then we'll do, we need to bring in 4 things. Okay, the name of the node, okay, which will be for each, and then which point number. So inside the for each, there's only 1 point, so it will be 0.0. Then the name of the attribute, which is seed, and then what is the index of that attribute. So if it's a float, the index is 0. If it's a vector, then the index is like 0, 1, 2. So which one are you picking up? Okay, so we need to do like // for each d is what we want. And then the point number is 0. The name is seed. Don't do @seed, you do inverted comma seed. And then this is 0. And if I've done everything right, it does this. See, so everything randomizes. So this is fine. Now we need to start doing other things with this. Okay, so like plug this in over here to resample. And let's just temporarily, let's put in a null here on all 3. And then we can just, temporarily disconnect it. So we can set this up. Okay, so this comes in here. See, so this is fine. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to carve this so that they have different heights. So take a carve node, and in the new carve node, this is only in Houdini 20. So This is not in 19.5 or anything prior to that. But you have a value here which is you can use attribute. But it's a primitive attribute. So the entire line has like one attribute value. Okay, so what you want to do is we want to cut it from top. Okay, so that's the second you. Take a float. So take an attribute at just float. And let's call this as cut. So we'll call this cut. And we'll set this to always and set this to random. If you want, you can check this. So this is what it will look like. See, there you go. Okay, but this is at point level. We need it to be at primitive level. So it will look like this. Now, I don't want it from 0 to 1. So we want it from 1 to around like 0.8. Okay, so plug this in. And all you do is come here and change this to attribute. And there you go. Okay, sorry, it's not working because you need to type in the name over here. Okay, so just come in here and type cut. There you go. See, so let's just turn this off. The cut value, yeah, there you go. And so if I like adjust it, see, so now you have like, different values, which is cool. Okay, now the other thing is we also want values to control like, this carve node. So let's set up a couple more of these. Okay, let's do Control C, Control V. And put this in here. Let's call this as top and let's call this as bottom. Yeah. And so this will be, just change the name. So this is top. So this will be about that much. And then the bottom will be like we start at 0, go to around there. And so if we just check this, like I plug it in here, I come into this carve, okay, and I set this attribute to bottom, see, and I set this attribute to top. So we have like, these values over here. So this controls like, hold on, this is bottom. Yeah. So this one controls like the bottom values, see how much you want to cut it from the bottom, and this controls the top values. Okay, so so now we have set up like, how we wanted to, distribute, but now we have like multiple lines. So this has to go through a for each. So take a for each. So we take a for each primitive and let's plug that in. Let's do it through the, so let's do it after the resample. Okay, so after the resample, this value comes in here. And let's just, disconnect this, put this in here. And that value goes into this. And this value comes out here. So if I take a look at this, this is what we get. Okay, so all the lines are to distribute over this. But now we also need it to be, we also need to control the, like these guys. So we take a merge and we merge like, both these things together. See, so we have like, this much and that comes out here. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's just disconnect all of this temporarily. Okay, so it's, easier for us to work with. We also don't want, like the main stem coming in over here. Okay, so let's keep that separate. The main stem needs to now come in from like the same place, like this point, the resample over here, and this remains the same, so there's no change over there. Like these guys are both perfectly fine. Okay. And so we have like, this on the inside, and then, you give it the color and we give it sweep, and these two things merge together. So there you go. Yeah, so if we merge it, see. And we also need like one for each for this guy, because this won't be able to select the top point, because like where we want to copy the spheres on top, we need to select all the top points. Hold on a second. This needs to come in after the carve. Yeah, this value over there. Yeah, there you go. So we need to take a for each here. So take a for each primitive And this just needs to have like the group inside. So I can just take this, plug it in there. This comes in there, and then that goes out. So, that happens. And now we can merge these together. So I can just take the sweep over here. So 1, 2, and 3. And if we've done everything right, there you go. See, so we have, our leaves and plants and everything. Okay, we can just probably make this slightly smaller. Okay, now as a final thing, let's do one last thing. Let's say you want to randomize the colors. So what I can do is I can just take, after this resample, I can give it a random value. So let's take a float. So do an attribute just float, and let's call this random, and set always, and this will be random. Okay, except this will be primitive. So each, you're just getting like a random value between all of them. And then I'm going to promote this to point level. So just take an attribute promote, and I'm going to promote this from primitives to points. So what's happened now is like we have this one value, and we can use this to color everything. Okay, so what will happen is it will keep flowing downstream. Okay, so when we do a copy to points, you'll see like the random value should come in over here. Okay. Let's just do a reset cached pass. Yeah, there you go. So you have random over there, and then we have the random value flowing into the leaves as well. See, so everything has the random value. Okay, like we'll have the random value here, and we should also have the random value on these, spheres on top. So what we can do with this is actually pretty nice. So take a color node, and I can just plug in this color, and I can do ram from attribute and random, and this is what you'll get. So which is pretty cool. Let's give it some coloring. Okay, so let's make it like, let's try green and yellow or something like that. And then take a blend. So type in blend, and you'll get something called labs color blend. So we want to take the original colors and then this color. And if we set the blend mode to multiply, you should get to see a variation. Hold on, let's make this darker. Yeah, there you go. Okay, but let's not set it to multiply. Let's try to set this to overlay. See, so we can then sort of, adjust this and make it look a bit more interesting. Yeah, see, and that gives you, a fairly decent looking hedge. So now I can come into, like if I want, I can come into my scattered line and make this 360. So I get like a little more, randomized rotation, and also you can sort of randomize the cone, which will allow it to sort of spread out, but you don't want to do that much. So, a little bit is fine. And if we want, we can set this to density. So what that does is that as I scale the grid up or down, it will become, more or less automatically. See, or if I just take this and I stretch it out. Yeah, what you can do is like, I haven't used packed primitives over here for the leaves or anything, because then transferring the color becomes a bit problematic. But what you can do is once you've made like a hedge, okay, then you can sort of like pack the whole thing and then use it for distribution for like, larger landscapes or something like that. Okay, so that will make things a little bit better. So maybe I can just make this smaller, or yeah, let's take this p scale value and let's see if we can, yeah, there you go. See, so you can sort of adjust the whole thing, and let's adjust the sweep a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so yeah, nothing overtly fancy, but then the point is like, if you have maybe like a leaf asset or flowers or something, then you can kind of, distribute those on these points and get like better results. Plus with the sweep node, you can also, it also generates UVs for you. So you can turn on compute UVs, and then, so if you want to put textures or something on it, then that will also be, possible. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So this is how you can make, like a procedural hedge. I think it got a little confusing in the middle when I was pushing everything through a for each, but I hope you can follow along. Plus I'll upload the file, so it shouldn't be too complicated. It just like, build the whole thing and then just feed the whole thing through a for each and, let it do its job. Okay, that's pretty much it.